Dave Hodge joining us today from the 6. Morning, Dave. Hey, I'm going to open up with you.
Good morning. It's
go ahead.
sunny and very cold.
Not minus 46, I don't think, like it is here. But, Dave, I'm going to open
sunny
with...
and somewhat cold.
I got you. The broadest question, what did you think of Super Bowl 55?
Well, the game was a dud, but it told a remarkable story that we have to enjoy, I think, just for seeing it unfold as it has. Whether you like Tom Brady or not is the same as whether you like Tiger Woods or not, Wayne Gretzky, Roger Federer. This guy has been and continues to be amazing. And the defense really won it for Tampa Bay, but they're not winning the Super Bowl without Tom Brady. And how many people, when he decided and New England decided that the time was up for Brady to be the Patriots quarterback, and Tom Brady said, I'm going to go to Tampa Bay and be the quarterback for the Buccaneers, how many people thought it would evolve like this? How many people thought it would wind up with embarrassment for Tom Brady and all of us saying, you know what, why didn't you do the smart thing in your 40s, retire with 6 Super Bowl rings, and be lauded as one of the greatest of all time? Wasn't good enough for Tom Brady, and that's why he's great.
Well, and I wonder where you fall on the Tom Brady thing. You said whether you like him or not. There was a TSN anchor this morning saying it's sickening how much he wins and this kind of thing. And I love the Gretzkys and the Michael Jordans because it's so heavy as the head that wears the crown, as they say, Dave. Like, it's not easy for them. And I don't think people realize that. Where do you fall on Tom Brady?
Well, I admire what he's done, as I say. I'll just give you a little history lesson. My hero growing up, I'm going back too far for many of your audience, I know, but was Johnny Unitas. And at the end of his career, he and the Baltimore Colts fell out of favor with each other, and he was traded to San Diego, and he lost his first game with the Chargers 38-0, and he retired a year later. Joe Namath, the hero of what I think is the most famous Super Bowl of all time, because I guarantee it is something that we'll never forget, was waived by the Jets and decided to sign with the Los Angeles Rams. Started 4 games, was benched, retired a year later. Both of them, Unitas and Namath, broken down, old quarterbacks that should have known better and retired in Baltimore, where Unitas is concerned, in New York for Namath. Tom Brady did it differently. And that was the story of last night's Super Bowl. Tom Brady proved everybody that thought he was making a mistake very wrong, and proved everybody that thought the Chiefs would win easily because their offense couldn't be stopped. Brady was part of proving that wrong too, because the defense, Tom Brady doesn't play defense, but Tom Brady had something to do with everything that Tampa Bay did right, and that was telling Tampa Bay that they were good enough to win, that they would win, and that they should play with that in mind. And that's what we saw. We saw a team confident, aggressive, and from the very start, even though they went down 3-0, didn't have any trouble at all winning a game easily. And that was a surprise. I mean, I don't know anybody that had thought that the game would be a blowout one way or the other. But that's what it was. And a Super Bowl that is over before the fourth quarter starts or earlier isn't a good Super Bowl. But it's a terrific story. I'll add one stat, and I assume it's correct because it's on Twitter. But out of Boston came a stat that said Tom Brady has played 344 regular season and playoff games. In the first half of those, which is 172, if I'm doing my math correctly, his winning percentage was .767. In the second half of his career, winning percentage, 7.67. Now, apart from proving how consistent he is, that's one of those stats you can't make up. And those stats are going to change because he's coming back.
Yeah. Well, here's one for you, Dave. One guy that predicted a Buccaneer rout was John Lynch, the Saskatchewan Hall of Fame broadcaster from the Rough Riders. You know John Frenzy well. But I got to ask you this. I'm rare in the media. I have a right-wing pro-business mentality. I wonder where I love the fact that the NFL was plowing through. They were going to play no matter what, and they accomplished it. Where are you on the fact that they just weren't going to take a knee for a virus and that they played?
I think you have to realize that these leagues are bound to try. I think where criticism can apply is if you think that they're not trying hard enough to be safe enough. We keep hearing that, I'll use the NHL for an example, that they are operating with an abundance of caution and safety for the players. I think they're operating with an abundance of hope. And that can cause problems. And I think it was true for baseball and any sport. Basketball seems to have avoided some of the problems. Hey, can you please explain to me why no Canadian division, as I call it, the Canadian division, why no Canadian division games have been postponed?
Why they didn't do what? I couldn't hear you. Broke up.
Why no games in the Canadian division, as I like to call it, have been postponed because of COVID, and all of the NHL postponements have occurred in the other three divisions. Which, granted, they include a lot more teams, but the NHL has to have some kind of explanation for that. Not that I think they would give it to us, but I'd love to hear one.
You just said it. It's the overabundance of caution, which has kept people safe in Canada. Trust me, I get it. And another old buddy of yours, Tiger Williams, I talked to him for an hour the other night, and Tiger is as right wing as they come. He says, you don't want to go to Arizona or California. You might get this thing. He goes, we're safer up here. Period. That's what it comes down to.
But it's still remarkable that, all of the postponements would come in the United States and none would come in Canada. I can get 80% of the postponements in the other three divisions and a few in the North Division. But I think it's hard to explain unless you're going to tell me that the 7 Canadian teams are doing things that the American teams are not doing. It boggles the mind, really. And as I say, if the NHL hasn't investigated this to find out, should we be doing things in the U.S. that they're doing in Canada? And if so, what are they? Then I'd be amazed. But as I say, I'd also be amazed that they tell you what they found out.
Yes, well, you know how that works. But I don't know. I talked to people in Winnipeg, Toronto, and Hamilton on the weekend. They're in complete, total lockdown. Restaurants aren't open, that kind of thing. And in America, they're rolling like normal. There's your answer.
Well, yeah, then the NHL would need to be stricter with the protocol with the U.S. teams, and taking glass out from behind the bench and talking about machines that would distribute the air better. If that's a good idea now, which I think it is, my dentist's office had one of those. Air, I don't know what you call it anyway. It's got a HEPA filter or something. I'm not good with the technical names, but, enclosed space, and the ventilation is very important. Well, right from the start, that was necessary in a dentist's office. If the NHL decides now that it's a good thing and would help, then it probably should have been investigating that sort of an idea earlier. I don't know how much study was done to make sure that they didn't have all these postponements and that these problems would not occur. I guess it's easy to point fingers and say you guys haven't done it properly. But you can't tell me that they said, well, it's inevitable. We're going to have 22, 24 games postponed or whatever. They surely were thinking they could do better than that, or, as I say, hoping.
Well, I've talked to those teams. I'm not going to say which one in America. It's a pain for them to remove their glass. They've already sold the tickets behind the net or behind the benches. So their complaint is that the health officials and NHL health officials are making it up as they go along. And I don't know that is an incorrect assessment by them. But unless you have a comment on that, do you want to talk about the Leafs? They got the Canucks again tonight. Is Toronto literally... Yeah, go ahead.
I'll give you the line of the day when you said removing glass would be a pain. But
sorry, thank you.
Anyway, jot that down. No, I think I think these 3-game series threaten to have everybody go. We're going to see in the third game of the Canucks versus the Leafs exactly what we've seen in the first two. Except for the fact Wayne Simmons isn't there to score a power play goal because of a broken wrist. But, the Leafs have embarrassed the Canucks. The Leafs are one of the best teams in the league. Pretty hard to compare when they're only playing 6 other teams all season long. But they have looked really good, and so have the Montreal Canadiens. I have a theory about the Leafs, since you want to talk about the Leafs, that and it involves Wayne Simmons, actually. I think the Leafs, a year ago and in past years, were looking up at Boston and Tampa Bay and saying, we're in the toughest division in the league for us. We can't beat the Bruins in the playoffs. And Tampa Bay is a team that's capable of winning the Stanley Cup, and in fact did that last season. As soon as the Canadian division was announced, as soon as the reshuffling of divisions came about, I'm going to bet you, I can't prove this, but I'm going to, and again, they wouldn't admit it, but I'll bet you that the Leafs brass said, who are we looking up at now? And the answer that would come to them would be nobody. We're going to go for this, and we're going to add a guy like Wayne Simmons, who is a guy that teams add when they think they've got a shot at winning the Stanley Cup. An otherwise fairly young team that can use a veteran who can do what he does. Not that if everything had stayed the same, that Wayne Simmons wouldn't have appealed to them. But I think the Leafs loved the division realignment and thought that they could win it, thought that they were favored, should be favored. I think there's little doubt that was the case. Anybody looking at it, who else are you going to favor to win to finish first in the North Division? So I think the Leafs are loving this.
I had Calgary, and they have not lived up to that. We got a lot of hockey to go, but it's been fantastic. And as you said, Leafs Canucks tonight. Dave, we have to run. As always, I appreciate the insight, the history lesson, and stay safe out there.
Okay, and Tom Brady doesn't bother me at all.
Good. That's 2 of us. The great Dave Hodge joining us. We're going to go to the full shot here. We got the Tom Brady bunny hug on the table. Do you want to hold that up?
Sure, absolutely.
Along with Andre the Moose there. Yep. There you go. Tom, TB12. We're keeping that up in the honor of Tom Brady today.
For sure.
You're watching Rod Pedersen On Demand. For more of The Rod Pedersen Show, visit rodpedersen.com or follow Rod Pedersen on social media.